there's a phrase that I like to say, it's not what you do, it's how you do it that is going to define if you're going to actually get the result or not. Because sometimes people just copy other companies and say, hey, this is not working for me. It's not that you're copying the reason why it's not working. It's the way you are copying that's not working. So when you master execution, you just learn that the what doesn't really matter. It's easy to copy if you master the execution to adapt the way you're copying to your reality.
All right. All right. Welcome to the Winner Circle podcast, where we explore the latest insight and strategies in business and leadership. I'm your host, Jay, and today we have a special guest with us. Joining me today is Fernando Vitti. He's the founder and CEO of Nexforce, a growth strategy and RevOps consulting firm that helps companies in more than 9 countries to unlock growth in a predictable, scalable, replicable way. He's also an executive with over 11 plus years of experience. He's an expert in growth marketing, sales, and operations that over the years helped dozens of tech companies like Intuit QuickBooks, AWS, and many others. He's also a young executive, or the youngest executive to be approved at the OneMBA, a Global Executive MBA ranked by the Financial Times as the first in Latin America and the 34th of the world. He is a certified professional with Reforge, CSL, Osport, Adewole. I just want to say, welcome back. Fernand, come back to the Winner Circle.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay. Guys, what Jay is basically trying to say, to summarize and wrap up, he's saying I'm kind of a nerd. So I don't know if I will take this as a compliment, but thanks, man. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. I would say you're more than a nerd. yeah, a very strong profile. Very strong. The last episode we had, it was a great episode. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people really got an insight. I know somebody who, when he listened to that podcast, he was able to have the courage to push the energy because he was young. He was like 20. So before he used to feel like, oh, I'm too young to do this. But when he saw your profile and things you've achieved, it gave him that courage to want to press on and push the energy, because everybody told him, no, you can't be an entrepreneur maybe when you get to 30 and all that. So he knew that age is not a limitation when it comes to entrepreneurship. So let's quickly move forward. All right. So now, for today's episode, I wanted to ask, I have been meaning to ask this question, like, what inspired you to specialize in RevOps for Salesforce?
Awesome. I think it falls, the real reason falls way before in my timeline. It was when I'm starting my first business when I was 18. The business didn't go well, so I decided to start a career where I could learn. And what I choose to specialize as my core skill was to drive revenue and growth. Because I learned from my past experience in my first company that I cannot be a successful entrepreneur if I don't learn how to drive revenue. So this must be my core skill. So that was the first reason. Answering the second part of the question, why HubSpot, why Salesforce, why revenue operations? Because over the years, as a professional consultant, helping business around the globe to drive replicable, scalable revenue, I learned that mainly of the B2B companies, they fail in the same topics. The reason why they are not growing, the reason why they are not succeeding as they should, as they could, is mainly because they have a bottleneck in terms of process, technology, and data. Usually when you analyze the spectrum of growth, you have 6 main pillars that drive sustainable revenue, which is strategy, people, channels, process, technology, and data. But when you fail in the base and in the foundation, which is process, technology, and data, when you have a liability here, this is the structure of growth. This is the structure of the company. If the process is not really well connected to the technology, the data is not going to be good. If you have bad data, this is not going to provide insights to your leadership team, uh, uh, to the company as a general, and people are not going to be able to make the right calls. And the channels are not going to receive the best performing channels are not going to receive the appropriate amount of money because sometimes people with bad data are going to invest in the wrong channels. So when I learned that that was the main reason why companies fail, why they are losing to competitors, why they are slowing down, this is the moment that I choose to specialize in revenue operations. And then when I make this call, okay, this is my growth methodology. This is my way of driving results for other companies. I was in a moment that I needed to decide, okay, how to actually do it when you have so many options of technologies. And when it comes up to Salesforce and HubSpot, something that you're going to reach your conclusion is you can basically build your entire operation in a single platform. You can use HubSpot for marketing, for sales, for service, for operation. So you can simplify, even with HubSpot or Salesforce, you can simplify your entire operation in basically one or two technologies. So that's why basically I choose revenue operations, HubSpot, and Salesforce as the main core of what we do today at Nexforce. And I even got
Oh,
a cup from them,
yeah.
which is cool.
Huh? That's great. Honestly, that's fascinating. And to be honest with you, it's clear that your dedication to RevOps and your, the deep understanding of both the HubSpot and the Salesforce, has been the thing that's allowed you to stay at the cutting edge of the field. And you emphasize on continuous learning. That's very impressive because, if you really want to grow in a particular field, you have to keep learning in that field so you can be better or be the best in that field. So another question I was just going to ask is, can you share some key tactics, for driving revenue and true operational excellence in the technology industry in 2024? Because right
Sure.
now, I think the technology industry is evolving rapidly. 1 minute we're in AI, the next minute, who knows next? Like we're just moving. Yeah.
Sure. Uh, the first thing that you need to understand if you want to drive revenue in this technology environment, and it doesn't matter if it's in Brazil, if it's in the US, if it is in Europe, Africa, I don't care. The way to build the growth formula is always the same, the engineering process. You need to basically uh, map three kind of metrics, which is volume metrics, like number of sales, new amount of revenue that you are delivering, number of leads, number of opportunities. This is your performance metrics, the volume metrics. But they are going to assess basically if you are delivering enough results. But they are not assess neither the efficiency level in the way you do it, neither the velocity that it takes to actually get there. So this is where the other two types of metrics actually comes into play. You have efficiency metrics that are all percentage, for example, conversion rate, lead qualification rate, churn rate. They're going to show you in each phase of your process the efficiency level in each step of the customer journey. And the velocity metrics are going to tell you how long does it take from a lead in the beginning of the process to go over the entire journey. How long does it take to become a qualified lead, to become a customer, to actually, after being a customer, to churn and cancel your product? So when you combine all these three types of metrics, and you narrow down and do a drill down to understand what are behind these metrics. For example, if I analyze the volume metrics, uh, number of leads, number of sales, it alone, it doesn't say much. You cannot make a real conclusions without just by looking isolated into these numbers. You need to actually drill down and narrow down to the other set of metrics that are what I like to call the secondary indicators. For example, I will drill down and understand my performance metrics, again, volumetrics, by sales rep, by lead source, by company industry, by company size. When you look all these metrics, number of sales, number of leads, the efficiency metrics and the velocity metrics, and you narrow down and drill down to this kind of secondary indicators, this is where when you get to real conclusions. So the first recommendation and hack that I can tell you is build your go-to-market blueprint. It's like literally a blueprint assessing from lead to churn what needs to happen in each kind of the phases, each one of them, and what are the metrics, volume, efficiency, and velocity, and the secondary indicators that you are going to measure for each one of the phases. My second recommendation would be try to really, really double down on automation and personalization. Because, for example, something that I hear a lot is outbound is dead. It's not that. It's just getting harder. Why is that? Because everybody is doing it. Like in the beginning, if you send an email in the beginning of the era of internet, if I would send to you an email prospecting you, probably you would be happy because you don't receive many emails. So it really seems that someone is actually care about you and try to start a conversation. So you probably would be all excited. Hey man, I got this email. This guy actually knows my company and wants to have a conversation with me. This is crazy. Because it was an era where you be much more used to receive mails harder than emails. Now everyone is receiving emails. And now everyone is receiving LinkedIn messages as well. So it's getting harder. For example, 3 years ago, if I would prospect you in LinkedIn, my odds of getting a connection, starting a conversation, and getting into a meeting with you would be really high, the odds of succeed. But right now, like in the new industry standards, probably the ratio of people that are going to even accept your connection request is going to be what, 30%? The number of people that are actually, the ratio of people that are going to actually reply probably is going to be around 10, 20%. Why is that? Because everybody is doing it. So you need to play smart. You need to actually be real tailor-made in terms of the copywriting of the message, in terms of trying to not sound robotic, because every time you receive a LinkedIn message and it's a big text, like you see, hey Jay, this is my name is Fernando, and I was checking your company, and you know what? Have you ever heard about this and that indicator that's saying that your industry could be doing better? And wow, I have a magic solution for you to get better in these indicators. And like, it's literally a textbook in a single message. Nobody is going to reply to that anymore. So I think these two, if you're a B2B tech company, they won't fail. Be more personalized in terms in the way you're going to deliver your message if you're doing outbound, because outbound still works for the majority of the companies. Just look at Salesforce, for example. Mainly of the deals are outbound. And in the other hand, build your go-to-market blueprint. Otherwise, if you don't do it, you never know where you're failing.
All right, thank you for that information. It's quite powerful because the truth is, in this generation of AI, where we have a lot of people, they have these tools like they just generate AI, has a long message, and they send it to prospect. I personally, if somebody send me a very long message, I might not even read it because sometimes, So, do you? So, it's just a follow up question before we move forward. So, do you suggest that when you're prospecting, you should send in a little bit of a short message, or what approach would you advise?
Short message, direct to the point, even misspelling some words, because if it's too well written, if it's too long, it means nobody actually have the time to go and write this personally. Even it's a copy paste or it's a robot sending the message. So what we learned from the past few years and this is crazy because in the beginning longer message would actually got the attention of the audience, because again, it would be not so often that you receive a LinkedIn message, for example. So people would actually learn. They would be notified over email, hey, you got a new message. That's cool. No one sends me a LinkedIn message. Even as a recruiter with a job offering, or I need to check. And it would be easier to get the attention of the people because maybe it's a recruiter, maybe it's a potential investor. So they would all go and see the message. And if it was really connecting, even if it was longer, the people would read and reply. But nowadays, it's same as email. They're receiving so many LinkedIn messages that they're not even reading it. So if it seems too long, probably is a bot, probably is a sales rep. If you have sales rep in your title in the LinkedIn, for example, I never accept a sales rep. If you have in your profile, hey, I'm account executive, probably you're going to try to sell me something. This kind
People
of
don't like to be
small,
sold to.
yeah, exactly. People love to buy, but they hate when people are trying to sell them something. So you just need to understand, hey, you need to try to connect in personally. I will give you one quick example. Here in Brazil, if you are going to purchase a software from abroad, for example, from US, the tax rate can increase the cost, the real actual cost of the software, up to 50%. So it can get real expensive real fast because of tax. And the tax regulation in Brazil is one of the most complex in the world, especially the tax law environment. So when I approach, for example, a CFO, what I usually do is in the connection request, I say, hey, Jay, I know that you're CFO, right? Hey, Jay, I was looking around your website and I saw that you're paying HubSpot in US dollars, which can increase the real cost in Brazilian reais in up to 50% because of tax. I have an actual solution to reduce this to 15%. Do you want to know how? So direct, short, personalized. I even know what software he's paying US dollars because there are technology around there that can show to you all the stack that the company is using. So this is just one example, but it could be something different. For example, if you're a enterprise solutions provider and you want to connect with enterprise leaders, but you are not being able to find the entry to the company, you can do what? Create a podcast and actually go to all the ICP and personas in the company and invite them to speak in your podcast. And then you started a conversation, you started a relationship, and this can not only lead to maybe an opportunity to sell your solution, but when this person that was part of your podcast share with his or her network the actual result of the podcast, other person in the enterprise environment, in that company, in the other players that you may be willing to sell that are enterprise business as well, are going to get to know you. So this creates what I like to call a growth loop. It's a small loop, but it's still a loop. So figure this out. If you do 100 podcasts with your target audience and you close 10% of these deals, 5%, it's a lot of money for free and much easier to do and faster to actually get to a point of creating a networking and creating a sales machine in your ICP than doing anything else that you may even think about it.
Thank you so much for the information. And to be honest with you, I've gotten to a point, all right, that I believe that you must create your own niche as if you're trying to if you ever want to try to sell, because you're the king of sales, so you know how this thing works. Well, but I believe that, just my own take on it, that you must create your own niche, because I feel like almost everybody in the world are just doing the same thing all over again. All right, everybody's doing this, everybody do that. Creating a niche is very good. Having a strategy before you push out that message. And also, if possible, work with data. You talked about data. Reaching out to me, telling me something about what I'm doing right now. That, oh, you are getting this thing from the US at this rate. I'm like, how do you know? So it keeps me interested. I remember there was a time we were trying to focus on point of view consulting. We were trying to focus on a particular demography. And we got an email, a very short email. Are you looking for contact of, we have contact of so demography in this region? Like, this is what we need. The next question was like, tell me more. Was a very short message, maybe 2 lines, but that was an answer right there. Unlike if they've written big one, I might really just get lost in it. So I really love the way you answered it. And it really now it really confirmed, because if the master, when it comes to RevOps in the world, is telling me this, then I think I'm good. So I've learned from you myself. I've learned from you. So now,
And
how do
just
okay?
let me just add something here. And why is that? The main reason is because nobody got the time to go for something longer. You are literally being bombarded by messages all day. You have working emails, personal friends, Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, notifications, other app notifications. You are ordering something like DoorDash or whatever. You are being bombarded of messages and notifications in every single place. So your attention is split. And when your attention is split and you receive one prospecting email, one of out of 100 other prospecting emails that you received just today, and it's too long, you don't have the time. So the title needs to be catchy. It doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn, SMS, or email. It needs to be smart, it needs to be short, it needs to be precise. This is something that there's a phrase that I like to say. It's not what you do, it's how you do it that is going to define if you're going to actually get the result or not. Because sometimes people just copy other companies and say, hey, this is not working for me. It's not that you're copying the reason why it's not working. It's the way you are copying that's not working. So when you master execution, you just learn that the what doesn't really matter. It's easy to copy if you master this. You can to adapt the way you're copying to your reality.
Yeah, thank you for that brief information also. Moving forward, I was going to ask a question. Now we'll talk about people, we spoke about data, right? So how do you balance the focus on data as a business and people in driving revenue growth?
Data is, think about religion. Data will be your God. If you don't have data, you don't have direction, you don't have meaning, you don't have purpose. the amount of data that you need is going to be different in each phases of your company. So if you're early stage, too early stage, the only data that you actually need is your cash runaway and the number of new sales, new revenue, and maybe trying to figure out costs, but new revenue, costs, profit, runaway. This is all you need. You don't need much more than that because this is what basically it's going to lead you to the next step where you're going to actually get to a point where this information is just not enough to keep growing. So the business will give you the signals. When you start growing, the perspectives, the indicators, the control that you need is going to evolve. It's going to gain maturity, but you need the data. You just need to figure out. And this is, again, your God. If you don't have it, you don't have meaning, you don't have purpose. And you need to find a way to measure what is right for that specific moment of the business. But when you grow, you need to balance because even you can be a freak of trying to measure everything. And sometimes you don't need to measure everything. You just need to measure what is most important, again, for that phase. So to summarize, my answer is number one: identify which phase of growing you are in terms of your company maturity. When you figure this out, just define what are the key metrics that you need to control and measure in order to get there. And then, what are the other indicators that you may need in order to understand, to drill down and understand these key North Star metrics that you define? So, for example, in the beginning of the company, if I'm generating 50 leads per month, I don't need to narrow it down. 50 leads is all I got. Maybe what does it's going to tell me if I narrow it down to understand that 5 leads are from organic, 30 from found, and maybe, I don't know, 10 from referral. It just doesn't matter because the sample size is just too small. So when the sample starts to grow, which is, again, your company is growing, so the data sample and the data availability is going to also, at least it's expected to also grow along with you. Then it's the right time to narrow down, the right time to drill down to other metrics and to get to more specific answers and trying to understand the why and the reason behind these North Star metrics of how they are performing or underperforming. So this is the way I think in terms of how to balance focusing on growth, only growth, and focusing on getting to actual data.
Thank you for that, because that's very vital. Balancing those two is key. Just like you said, data is religion. So people need data to move. I think everything in the world right now is data driven. And even the food we eat, I mean, people are ordering it. And it's very, very important. Data is very important. So now let's take a look. Let's go a little bit of personal. Let's just draw personality, because a lot of people want to understand a little bit about you, especially your role and your experience in marketing and sales, and being a sales executive. So, what challenges have you faced in that 11 plus years? People really want to learn, people really want to know, so they can actually grab one or two ideas from that.
Okay. I think currently the number one challenge for my company is people because we are approaching almost a.
Sorry,
Uh-huh.
I mean to you yourself, not the company. You
Oh,
personally
personally
now. Yeah.
myself. Wow.
Yes, that role.
Okay. Wow, there are a few. I think as an executive to actually keep your mind straight because especially it doesn't matter if you're a C-level or an entrepreneur. The higher you get, the bigger the number of problems and the complexity of what you need to solve. So the pressure is going to increase. The problems are going to be more destructive, and literally, it's hard for you to find balance. because your day just have 24 hours. And usually what people is going to try to do is to work more in order to try to fix the problem, to try to fight the issues. And this is when they lose balance. And when you are in this kind of position, if you're a C-level or again entrepreneur, you need to always remember that this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And if it is a marathon, you need to actually get to the end of it. So if you're burning in the beginning of the race, like losing your mind, losing your healthy, you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, you're not exercising, you're burning up. And it's fine if you do it from time to time, because even in a marathon, sometimes you need to sprint. But if you treat the entire race as a sprint, you're going to burn up and you're not going to get to the end of it. So I think personally for me, my main challenge is to try to find this balance, try to always remember that, and try to actually create the discipline to commit with myself, you know? This is the number one challenge, because with all the problems, with all the stuff that I need to figure out, all the stuff that I need to actually do, sometimes I feel like personally obligated to work more, to go over the weekends, to stay up all night, to try to fix everything. And it's just not going to work. Maybe it's going to work for today, but in the long run, I'm going to lose performance. I'm going to lose efficiency. And in order to win the race, you need to find balance.
So, how do you avoid burnout and find balance?
Wow, another complex one. I like to say that I'm a slave to my schedule, literally. And this is not bad actually, because for me, discipline is equal to freedom. So I have the discipline to literally be a slave of myself. Everything that I need to do is on my schedule. Like if you open my Google Calendar, I have my exercising hours, the time that I will go out, what I'm going to do in the weekends. So this helps me to create the discipline to do not think, but just follow. For example, if I create this state of mind where, okay, if it's in my schedule, I'm going to do it, and you go from meeting to meeting, and then you go to exercising times, and you just follow, it's easier to get by. It's easier to execute. So I think for exercise, this is what I do. For on track with my health, I have again in the schedule doctor appointments to check the nutrition, to check how I'm evolving in terms of my health and my weight. And in the daily basis, I literally have a Google spreadsheet where I give a score to how healthy I was that day. And I can measure over month, over week, over quarter, if I'm evolving, if I'm progressing, if I'm doing good, or if there is any kind of bottleneck or any kind of signs that I'm not doing better. And this falls back into data, because when you lose control, when you lose your health, when you lose performance, you just lose also track of time. So usually it's not from just a single day. Usually there are signs week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter that you're doing worse. So if you actually find a way to not only create a routine, create a schedule, but actually measure it, this is the way that for me personally, it seems too much trouble, but it's not. It's easy. I have, again, in my schedule, one time per week where I fill the data in the spreadsheet, and I have the control to understand if I'm just progressing as I should. So that's basically the way I found to balance myself and to balance my life. it took too many years to find this formula, but this is the formula that works for me.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So moving forward, all right. So how, when we look at it, what are some common misconceptions about RevOps and revenue operations that you've been encountered?
Sorry, I don't think I got the question.
So, like, what are
What
some
do you mean?
misconceptions about RevOps
Misconceptions. Okay.
that you have
Number
encountered?
one,
Yeah.
the number one misconception. People just are going to even purchase HubSpot and Salesforce, give to the team leaders, marketing leader, sales leader, SaaS leader, and they're going to call it. We are doing RevOps. This is not RevOps. RevOps is the methodology states that you need to have one single area that is in charge of process, tech, and data for go-to-market, from lead to cash. So if marketing is doing what it wants in the technology, in the process, in the data, sales is doing the same, CX is doing the same. If they are not aligned, if they do not have, someone to report that is actually making sure that all the decisions have perfect alignment over time and go into the same direction, this is not RevOps. Second misconception, thinking that you can build a revenue operations team with decentralized tech. You can't. You just can't. If marketing is using a platform, sales is using another one, and CX is using another one, this is just not revenue operations. And I don't want to do immersion here, but that's why we created the first RevOps CRM in the world, Nexforce, in order to give something, because the CRMs are like, like Lego. You don't receive, when you purchase Lego, you don't receive the product. You need to build it up as you want. You have some instructions, but you need to build it up. We figured that the small business in the world, especially B2B, they just want the freaking Lego. They just want the product. They just want to purchase a CRM where you can just plug and play. You can just start using. The metrics are going to be there. The information is going to be there. You just need to use. So that's why we created this kind of software, and that's why if you're using, I don't know, Salesforce for sales, marketing for HubSpot for marketing, and Zendesk for customer service, I don't care the name that you're going to give to your area, but this is just not RevOps. You can say whatever you want, you can call it something else, but not revenue operations. And the third misconception is thinking that revenue operations is just one more business area beyond the other in the business. And it's not. It's like, it's the heart of the operation. It needs to be in the core. And some companies, they create a revenue ops area just to say, okay, we are innovative. We are doing what everyone else is doing, and it's cool. The name is cool, so let's do revenue operations. But they don't do it in the core. Revenue operations is not an area, it's a mindset that needs to be filled and needs to be in the core of the entire company, from the C-levels, from the analysts. Everyone needs to know it. Why does it exist? Why it's important, and why everyone should care. So just creating the area and thinking that if you as a C-level, if you as an entrepreneur, if you don't care, nobody's going to care. It doesn't matter if the area exists. If you don't make it an important as the core of your go-to-market engine, it's just not going to work.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. You just said, you stated it right there, because you know how this industry works. So, moving forward, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to enhance their revenue operations?
The advice number one is make it simple. The number one mistake that I literally every time that I help a company, it's the same mistake. It's trying to create too much complexity. Like if you're going to purchase, again, HubSpot for marketing, Salesforce for sales, and Zendesk for customer service, it's just too much complexity. You don't need that. The technology needs to work for your business, not the other way around. If you're working for your technology, you're doing it wrong. And you're actually creating a liability rather than having information and efficiency. So you need to kill your liability. You need to make it simple. Making it simple means just centralize everything. HubSpot can offer a great solution for marketing, sales, services. Salesforce does the same. Nexforce as well for smaller companies. So just make it simple, because you don't need to think too much about the technology. You should be investing time making decisions out of the data rather than trying to figure out how to connect everything and how to actually get the information you need to make the decisions. If you're working for the software rather than the software working for you to provide you the information to help you to make the right calls, you're doing it wrong.
Well, that's a very, very important information. And I feel, and I'm hoping a lot of entrepreneurs learn that, because this is an opportunity for you to get information directly from the source itself. Fernando Vitti has the Nexforce is one of the major, or it's not the major RevOps organization in the whole of Latin America. If you're an entrepreneur and you're running a RevOps for your organization and all that, make sure you listen to this properly and follow the advice. No, it's just a step to freedom for you. All right. So I'm just going to ask another question also, because this question is, I'm just focusing on entrepreneurs right now, so they can get one or two information that is very key. You need to jot this down. It's very, very important. So now I'm going to ask on behalf of the entrepreneurs, how do you approach, like when it comes to adapting operational processes to meet the evolving needs of the market as an entrepreneur?
Again, it's going to fall back into the blueprint. You need to actually think about it. Think this through. If you're going to build if you're going to, if you're in the construction business, and you're going to, I don't know, create a building, you're going to build it up, right? Usually, architects are going to do the planning. They're going to create a blueprint. They're going to assess the terrain. They're going to understand what kind of materials they need to use. And they're going to build it up following a plan. If you build it up without following a plan, probably it's going to fall down. With business, it's the same. If you don't have a blueprint of your go-to-market engine, and you just, follow your instinct and just go over the flow, it's going to break. I don't know when, but I do know it's going to fall down. So, in order to be faster in adapting to the new business realities and to this evolving marketplace that is changing fast, you need to actually have a blueprint, because when things change, you know where you need to adapt rather than trying to adapt the whole machine, your whole go-to-market machine. So just do an assessment of what is changing and how does this impact in your current blueprint that is implemented in the core of your business, in your foundations. And hey, maybe if I change this piece, and maybe improve this part of the process, I'm going to be fully adapted and I'm not going to create friction. Because from time to time, what I see in companies, they grow so fast and they grow without thinking that everything just collapses. The process and the operation collapses. Marketing cannot generate more leads because the data is not reliable. Sales don't know even how many sales they got. and CX team doesn't know who is churning, who is not churning. Satisfaction goes low. So when you don't think about that, you have, again, this is what I just said in the beginning. I don't know when, but I do know it's going to collapse. So you need a blueprint for that. This is going to, it seems that it's going to make you slower in the beginning. Yes, I do get that. But in the long run, and think again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. In the long run, it's going to pay off.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're right. When there's no structure, of course, when there's no foundation in property, it's going to collapse, just like you said. So now for entrepreneurs also, this particular, as we round up, what skills, it's not just only about leadership skills as an entrepreneur. You have leadership skills. So what skills and traits do you believe are essential for leaders in the revenue operations field?
I think not only for RevOps, but for all leaders and entrepreneurs as a whole. Number one is resilience, because the bigger you get, the larger the challenges and the problems you're going to face. So if you don't have that, man, just figure something else to do. If you want to get to the top, you need to have resilience, because you're going to be challenged every time, every day, every single minute that you're breathing, you're going to be challenged. So I get there are times of war and times of peace, but if you are a C-level, if you're an entrepreneur, just be ready, because mainly you're going to be fighting. The majority of the time you are going to be fighting. So resilience is key. Second for me is you need to have a mindset of an infinity learner. You need curiosity, because if you have curiosity and you approach everything trying to find the meaning, trying to find the reason of why each thing is happening, if you have curiosity and if you are willing to learn, usually you're going to find the answer for your problem. So it doesn't matter the problem. It doesn't matter if you don't even know how to do it. If you have curiosity, you're going to find the answer. And if you have resilience, probably you're going to get it through, because sometimes the learning process is also challenging. So curiosity, resilience, and lastly but not least, execution. Because sometimes leaders think that being a leader is about managing, and it is. You need to be a good manager. You need to delegate. You need to have people to do it. But from time to time, man, you're going to be the only one that can solve it. And if you don't know how to execute, if you rely too much on people, then you have a liability in your operation. Then you have a liability in the business. And maybe there's going to be a time that nobody else can solve this unless you. And if you don't have the execute power to actually do it, maybe you're going to just lose it. So I think when you combine, they're not skills that play along. You need to combine them so they can plan along. So when you combine them and you have resilience, you have execution and curiosity, this is what for me is about being a leader, and for me what is about being an entrepreneur. These are the three core skills for problem solving. You can basically solve any problem you may face, because these three are what it takes to actually get to any problem.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. So you spoke about delegation. So let's quickly jump to one of the last questions. So how do you ensure that your team remain motivated, and not just only motivated, committed to driving revenue growth through operational excellence?
Mm-hmm. That's another complex question, because the answer actually falls into multiple pieces. How do you actually, first one, how do you make sure when you grow a team that they have excellence, that they are outstanding in terms of performance? You need process and data for that. If you don't have the process, everyone is going to do what they think is best, and they are not going to follow standards. If your business don't have standards, and if people don't follow the same procedure, what is like we call standard operation procedure, the SOP. If you don't have SOPs, then your business is just chaotic. Like it's not going to ever achieve operational excellence because you don't have standards. So you need to build a process. You need to make sure that you have standards, and you need to make sure that the process is being measured. Otherwise, you don't know where the problem is. And our entire conversation is about getting the data to build the process, assess the process, optimize the process, bring and keep the right people in the operation. Okay, this is the first piece, or at least the first few pieces. Now the second one, and this is for me the masterpiece of everything. You need to make sure people have the interests are aligned. For example, if you have someone and you want to think, you want to your team to have a ownership mindset, they're not going to have it unless you make them owner of the company. Do you have stock options? Do you have commissions? Do you have bonuses? If you don't make sure interests are aligned, they are not actually like owners. If you don't make them owners, if you're making a profit and they are not making a profit, they won't care about performance. They won't care about extra mile, because what do I gain for going extra mile for you? Am I receiving a better salary, a commission, anything, a better opportunity out of my effort? Or are you the only one who's making a profit out of my effort? So when you make the interests aligned, when you split the pie, everyone needs to take a bite of the pie. If you're the only one eating it, man, you're doing it wrong. Like nobody is going to ever cares about going extra mile for you, and your team is never going to achieve operational and excellence. You're not going to be at their prime because you're just not giving them the motivation to do it.
Thank you so much. So what you're saying now, I just want to get is is giving your staffs or your team some incentive is actually good in promoting. Would I say patriotism or would I say loyalty?
SOP, standard operation procedures.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So it's great giving them some incentive to give them that energy to wanna commit their energy to the project, correct? Or to the organization.
Yes,
Is it
correct.
okay? All right. That's fair enough. So now looking ahead, what do you envision as the future of revenue operations in the global stage?
Revenue operation is not going to be an option. It's going to be the standard. Right now, it's an option. Right now, it's an innovation. In the future, I see it as the standard. If you're not doing it, people are going to look at you and say, hey, man, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you crazy? Like, this is business 101. This is too basic. So it's like I'm saying to you, hey, Jay, you need to control your profits, man. If you don't control your profits, you're going to go out of business. It's like, what the fuck, are you stupid? Everyone knows that. So it's going to, for me, it's going to be the same. If you're not doing it, like, are you crazy? Like, you're too way offline, man.
All right. Thank you so much. Now that's very, very important information. It's great to have you on the show. It's almost like 1 hour. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. But before you go, we always have this particular segment where we ask, what I want you to recommend. It's meant to be five, but I'm going to say 10 resources, 10 books, 10, you know, that people that really want to understand revenue operations can actually read, or probably entrepreneurs that just want to understand marketing, sales, and all that. So, what are the 10 books you recommend?
I love Winning by Design. This is a company that have some courses. They have the SaaS Blueprint. It's a great book. From 0 to 100 million in ARR in MRR. No, actually ARR. Another great book. Revenue Architecture. Another great book. So I would start by literally reading everything Winning by Design has to offer. The other book that I really love is Sales Acceleration Formula from Mark Roberge. He's a Harvard professor, ex-CRO from HubSpot. So great guy. And I think that's it. These two, for me, are personally the best.
Okay, that's two, right? So, how about any other books you would, because you're also an entrepreneur, you're the founder and the CEO. So, what other books would you recommend to the founders and entrepreneurs that are listening to this show that really want to have an idea?
There's one which is called Within CEO. That's a great book. Another one that I would for sure recommend is Blitzscaling from Reid Hoffman. Another great one. From 0 to 1 from Peter Thiel. Awesome book. Let me see what else.
I know you have over 1 million. I know you've read a lot of books, so you really can remember. But it's all good.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, remember what else? But I think these are my top 5. You know, every time that someone is saying, "Hey, what should I read?" I just out of my mind say, "Read this. It's going to change your life." I can make sure of that.
All right, thank you so much. So that's all for today's episode of Winner Circle. I want to thank amazing guest Fernando Vitti for his input and knowledge shared on driving revenue through operational excellence. I want to say thank you again, and I look forward to having you again on the show. Hopefully, probably when I visit Brazil, we can have a podcast right there.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you so much for keeping the industry and being part of the Winner Circle. I want to say, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring conversation and tips for success. Until next time, keep striving for greatness and know that you can be whatever you want to be. All you need to do, keep listening to the Winner Circle while I bring the greatest mind in the world. Thank you, Fernando, and see you next time. All right, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
This is the same building of Yergo Silicon.